The observation deck of the sanctuary hummed with the quiet efficiency of a ship designed for one purpose: preservation. Lara pressed her palm against the transparisteel viewport, watching the blue-green planet below rotate slowly in the eternal darkness. Somewhere down there, Tech species had thrived for millennia. Now only genetic samples and 3 surviving cubs remained, and one of those cubs was starving himself to death. He still refuses? Captain Vorn's chitinous plates clicked together in what Lara had learned to recognize as concern. The Qatari commander towered over her, his 4 arms crossed in a gesture that transcended species. 48 hours without eating, Lara confirmed, her voice tight. The medical bay says his metabolism is slowing. Another day, maybe 2, and we'll lose him. The other cubs ate without issue. The other cubs had their mothers for 3 more weeks before. Lara stopped herself. Before the plague. Before the Velcroth bioweapon had turned a thriving civilization into a graveyard. Tech was separated earlier. He's frightened. Vorn's mandibles twitched. I have contacted every xenobiologist in the quadrant. None have experience with Varathian predators, especially juveniles. The Galactic Council suggests sedation and force-feeding. Lara turned from the viewport, her brown eyes hard. Absolutely not. He's traumatized, not defective. There has to be another way. Then find it, human, quickly. The nursery section occupied the aft quarter of Deck 7, a climate-controlled environment designed to mimic Varathian summer. Lara palmed the access panel and stepped through the airlock into warmth and the scent of synthetic vegetation. The 2 larger cubs, Mira and Kren, lounged in a patch of artificial sunlight, their silver-black fur gleaming. They raised their heads as she entered, triangular ears swiveling to track her movement. Mira chirped, a sound like breaking glass, and returned to grooming her brother. Tech huddled in the far corner, partially hidden behind a fabricated rock formation. He was smaller than his siblings, his fur still patchy with youth. Those enormous amber eyes followed Lara's every step, pupils narrowed to vertical slits. Hey, little one, Lara murmured, lowering herself to the floor, a respectful distance away. She'd learned that approaching too directly triggered his flight response. I brought you something. She reached into her pack and withdrew a synthetic protein bar. Human food, nothing like what the cubs ate. Tech's nostrils flared, but he didn't move. Lara unwrapped the bar slowly, making a show of examining it. She took a deliberate bite, chewing with exaggerated satisfaction. So good. Tech's ears pricked forward slightly. For 3 days, Lara had tried everything. She'd offered him every variation of the Varathian diet the ship's database could synthesize. She'd played recordings of adult Varathian feeding calls. She'd even attempted to mimic their feeding postures, earning herself a strained back and the eternal mockery of the crew. Nothing worked. She finished her protein bar and pulled out a sealed container of Tech's actual food, chunks of lab-grown meat processed to match Varathian game animals. The cub's eyes locked onto the container. His tiny body tensed. Lara opened it and set it between them. Then she did something that would have horrified the xenobiologists. She reached in, picked up a piece of the raw meat, and brought it to her own mouth. She didn't eat it, of course. Varathian dietary proteins would make her violently ill, but she mimed biting down, her teeth clicking together convincingly. She pulled her hand away from her mouth and licked her fingers, humming with theatrical pleasure. Delicious, she told Tech, meeting his gaze. The cub's head tilted. His pupils dilated. Lara repeated the motion, reached into the container, brought the meat to her mouth. Feigned a bite, pulled away. Tech stood. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but Lara kept her movements slow and casual. She took another piece of meat, performed the same ritual, and then, crucially, set the piece down closer to Tech before retreating slightly. The cub crept forward, one tentative paw at a time. His nose twitched. He glanced at Lara, then at the meat, then back at Lara. She took another piece for herself and mimed eating it again. Tech lunged forward and snatched the piece she'd left for him. He darted back to his corner, but this time he didn't hide. He held the meat in his front paws, watching Lara intently. She took another bite of her piece. Tech, his eyes never leaving her face, bit into his. Explain this to me again, Captain Vorn said, his translator struggling with the concept. You pretended to eat his food and this convinced him to eat? Mirror neurons, Lara said, watching through the observation window as Tech demolished his third helping of the evening. Mira and Kren had joined him. the 3 cubs falling into the natural feeding hierarchy of their species. Humans have them. Apparently, so do Varathians. He needed to see eating as a safe social behavior. But you are not Varathian. No, but I'm Pack. Lara smiled as Tech paused between bites to chirp at her through the glass. She chirped back, a rough approximation that made him bob his head in what she'd learned was pleasure. His mother died. His world died. Everything he knew about how to survive, who to trust, what was safe, all of it was gone. He couldn't eat because eating requires vulnerability, and he was too afraid to be vulnerable. Vorn's plates shifted in thought. So you made yourself vulnerable first. That's what humans do, Captain. We're not the strongest. We're not the fastest. We don't have natural weapons or armor, but we're very, very good at making connections, at understanding what others need even when they're not like us. She pressed her hand to the glass. On the other side, Tech pressed his tiny paw to the same spot. The Galactic Council thinks you rescued 3 Varathian cubs, but you didn't rescue them from extinction alone. No? No. You rescued them with a human who was willing to fake eating raw meat until a traumatized predator cub felt safe enough to eat beside her. Lara grinned. We're stubborn that way. Vorn's mandibles spread in the Qatari equivalent of a smile. Humanity, fuck yeah, he said carefully, testing out the phrase he'd heard the human crew members use. Lara laughed. Through the window, Tech chirped again, louder this time, calling her back. She palmed the airlock release. Exactly, Captain, exactly.